Okay, hey everybody, good evening. Hi, I want to just check quickly. Can you guys give me a quick thumbs up on the chat just that you got my audio and you can hear me fine, and go. Just need to know that you guys can hear me fine so that we can get going. Perfect. All right. Okay, good evening everybody. So this is the first of a whole bunch of webinars that we're going to be doing. And this is the first one in which particular, I'm going to be looking at, let me give you guys some more light here, at Lightroom and how it can make a difference, not just to your normal processing, but specifically black and white on this one. So the couple of questions that you're going to have here is there's two things you can do. You can either chat. So the chat will come up. I can see the entire chat happening on the side and you can ask questions. Now I'm going to try and keep the questions towards the end of the session. But as we work through some of these Lightroom things, if you have questions, either use the chat function, which I can see on my screen, or you can ask me a Q&A on the question function on your side. And I'll either answer that as we go or then towards the end of this session. Now, just for me to know who I'm talking to here, can you guys quickly in the chat, give me an idea, are you a beginner, intermediate, or advanced Lightroom user? And go. And then I'm going to go from there. I've got intermediate, beginner, beginning, intermediate, keep going, intermediate. Okay, we're kind of middle of the range type stuff here. Medium, rare, nice. What's before beginner? That would be like introductory. Okay, so a lot of intermediate, I've got some advanced stuff. Now, before we dig into this particular session, Linda, I know where you are. Yes, quite correct. Now, before I dig into this session, the focus of these webinars, and this one in particular, I'm not going to teach you how to use Lightroom, right? I'm going to take and I'm going to show you how to approach black and white monochrome in Lightroom. If you have a pen and pad, look, I've got mine here, right? Pen and pen close by, then take notes. I'm going to give you some shortcuts, right? I'm going to give you some ideas, some tips, hopefully some inspiration for your own monochrome images. Some of the functions in Lightroom, if at any point in time I'm doing something that you don't get, pipe up on the chat or ask in the Q&A and say to me, listen, whoa, stop. What was that shortcut? I'm going to try and DJ as much of this out to you as I can. Remembering, I am recording this session and I will be putting this out on my Instagram TV later on as well. Then what I also need you to do is if you have any specific questions on Lightroom, there's a couple of things. Ask me or send me an email. I'm going to give you all my details at the end of this. You can screen grab it so you have my details. Ask me for those questions and I can then put more webinars together because we're going to be doing a lot more of these. We're also going to start doing one-on-one sessions on Lightroom where you can book myself or any of the other guys for particular things. So we can work, I don't know, how to process your elephant images, things like that. All right. So let's start. Black and white, monochrome. Now, there's a particular thing going around, and this is not just on Instagram, this is kind of in general, right? This is people who think that if you just take a normal color image and you hit V on the keyboard on Lightroom, which is the keyboard shortcut for it, right? And it turns it to monochrome, suddenly it's fine art. It's not. It is not fine art. So what I'm going to try and do in this session, I've chosen, I think, about 5 or 6 images, and I'm going to take you through the entire thing that how you can kind of manipulate a black and white to get more out of it. And this is the important thing. So questions at any time you guys fire. What I would suggest, and I do this on my Lightroom courses as well, is keep a notepad close by and write on their keyboard shortcuts. And I'm going to mention these as we go. Some of them you might know, some of them you might be reminded of, but they are quite handy as we go deeper into this. So I'll pop back on here. I still see your Q&A and we can go from there. I'm going to share my screen with you and we will get right into who can share, a panelist, who can share. And I'm going to share my screen with you so that we go. All right, so where is Lightroom? Okay, can I ask you all, can you quickly just confirm for me that you guys can see my screen? Just on the chat function, give me a thumbs up here. so that I know we're good and that I can carry on with this. Just on the chat function, just give me a quick little yes. You guys are happy to see that. Yes, 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 yes. You guys are a great bunch. I love the engagement. Okay. So what I've done now inside of Lightroom here is I have selected a bunch of images, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from this one here, this zebra image, and I'm going to talk you through an approach of how you should and could, for example, look at monochrome inside of Lightroom. Now, if I go to my grid, G, as you guys know, shortcut G takes you back home to this view, which is your grid view inside the library module. Okay, if I double click on this one, it opens it up. I'm going to hit D on develop, which takes it straight into my develop module over there. All right. Now, as you can see, I've already processed this one. This is a normal processed version, straight up black and white, straight up color version. To see a before and after on my keyboard, I can hit Y on the keyboard, which does that. What it does is it gives me a before and an after. This on the left-hand side is the original raw as shot out of camera, right? And on this side is my process version. Now, this is going to become important as we go deeper into black and white. Now, the first keyboard shortcut I need you guys to write down is V on the keyboard. A couple of things are going to happen, and I want you to watch. Before you do, watch my cursor here. Do you see back here? HSL, that's hue, saturation, luminance, and color. The moment I hit V on my keyboard, it's going to turn this image into a monochrome version, and watch what happens here at this panel. Ready? Here we go. I hit V. It turns the image into a monochrome, and it changes this to B and W, black and white. Watch again. If I hit V, it turns it back to saturation, or a saturated version. And if I hit V again, it turns it back into monochrome. Now, this is handy if you're working through your images, right? If you're working through your images and you want to kind of see if this has potential, if it has potential as a monochrome, quickly hit V on it and then go from there. Now, I'm going to go back to grid for a second, and I'm going to come back to you guys for a moment over here. Right. Important thing for you guys to note now is, okay, keep the questions coming. I see the question, can any image look good in monochrome? We'll get there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be creating virtual copies of these images. The images you see on my screen, right, is the ones you see on my screen are the ones that are raw straight out of camera. I'm going to create a virtual copy. Now, if you do not know what that is, you select the image. I'm going to do it now for you. You hit on a Mac, you hit Command apostrophe, on a PC, Control apostrophe. It creates a second version, and you can process these things separately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my original raw file. I'm going to create a virtual copy. The virtual copy, we will just hit V on, right? Just hit V and turn it into a monochrome, which a lot of people then think that's it, done, it's fine art, okay? And then we're going to process the other one as a proper monochrome black and white. Let me just quickly check Q&A. Keep those questions coming. I can see them coming in. The chat, let me see anything going on there. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you again. We're going back into Lightroom over here. All right, so keep the questions coming. I will pop in and out on those. And then let's roll from here. So in order for me to create a virtual copy of this image, and I'm going to do this in the grid view so you can see. I've got this highlighted. I hit Command apostrophe on my keyboard. Watch what happens. It creates two versions. Now, the one has a curled up little corner. That is the virtual copy. So it's not a brand new raw file. It's just a duplicate version of it inside of Lightroom's memory. So I select, here we go. I select my virtual copy. I hit D on the keyboard for develop. And on this one, I straight up just hit V. Remember, V on the keyboard turns it into monochrome. Done. I go back to grid, and now you can see this here is our straight up monochrome as per Lightroom. This one I'm going to take into D for develop, and we're going to start working from here. Now, guys, this for me is very, very important when you start looking at monochrome inside of Lightroom. When I hit V, I'm going to start the same way. Watch, I hit V, and it turns this here into B and W, black and white. Now, bear with me here for a moment. If I click this open, this panel, right, it gives me the black and white mixes. At this stage, that means nothing. Now, here's the catch, and this is important. At this point, you hit Y on the keyboard, and it gives you a before and after. This on the left-hand side is my raw file as shot, right? And this is the version I'm working. Now we get to the magic. Watch this. You can see that there's green in the front area here, right? So this area in the front is where the green will be. Watch this. I just decide now, I want to change this green. I go to the green slider and I move that side to side, and I can start isolating certain areas within my image. How awesome is that? So I'll do that. Now I look at the sky. Watch what I move. Blue channel. So I go to the blue channel and I move that. Look what happens to the sky. Okay, now we're getting something. Okay, so even if I've just done those two, I've just done the green and the blue channel. Yes, let's go back to our grid. Let's go back to our grid, and then I hit G for keyboard. Go there, G. If I put the original, so this one over here is my monochrome that I did. This one is the one that Lightroom just did. If I put those next to each other, okay, see how much more the one on the left pops. Look at the sky. Yes, see the sky. Got it. Okay, now let's start working. This image over here. Let me just quickly come back to you guys for a second here. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, you can just hit V on the keyboard, and what that does is it basically just desaturates the image. Or you can go into the channel and you can move individual color channels. So the areas that are blue, you can affect by moving the blue slider inside that black and white panel. The green areas you can affect by moving the green up and down. Okay, now let's get real. Let's go from the start now and then process an entire image, black and white, and then I'll come back to you guys now. I'm seeing your questions. I'm seeing the comments. Okay. Is it important to process a shot before going to black and white from lens correction and all? I'll get to that in a second. Here we go. Let us process this one from start to finish and see what happens. So this image here is the original. This is untouched, raw. This is how this thing came out of camera. What I would normally do, I would still do my basics. Now, guys, I've got Lightroom videos on every single one of these things on our YouTube channel. I can send them to you. I'll give you my details at the end. First thing I would do, I would still do my black and white points. If you don't know what this is, email me. I will send you the link to the video. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm defining where black and white is inside this image, right? So just by doing that, see the difference? Before and after, it pops more automatically, right? At this stage, the skew horizon does bother me a little bit. Well, actually, it bothers me a lot. Skew horizons does that to me. So I'm going to fix that, and we'll dig into all of these in due course. Don't worry about this. I've got videos on this. You guys can get hold of me for that. There we go. Horizon is straight now. Okay. Remembering now what we've done. I've only done black and white points here. Now, this is not monochrome. This is just general processing that you should be doing on every single image. At this point, I'm going to come to here, HSL and color. What do I hit on my keyboard to take it to monochrome? I hit V. It turns the image into a black and white version. And now I hit Y. So I've got my raw file on the left as it came out of camera, and on the right, I've got my desaturated version thereof. And now I'm going to start playing with this color channels over here. So I can see blue, I can see some green and yellow. And what would the elephants be? Maybe like, there's a deep like blue, green, gray in them. So let us start with the sky, which is blue. I want to affect this area. I can see it's blue. So I go straight to the blue slider. What do? I play with it and see what happens. See what happens here, right? Immediately you can see how that thing starts popping. Aqua, very close. Let's play with that, swing it side to side. The nice thing with Lightroom, guys, remember, it is non-destructive. You cannot hurt your image. So for those of you doing this for the first time, Here's what I would suggest. When you get to this point, you've hit V on the keyboard to make it a black and white. You've hit Y on the keyboard to give you this before and after view. Literally go to black and white and just start from the top and work your way down. Swing it side to side and see what happens. Okay, red side to side doesn't give me much. Let's see what orange does. Oh, hello. See how beautiful this grass pops in the front here when I move orange side to side. So I'll find something over there. Yellow, same thing, should affect that quite heavily. This is to taste. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Green. There's not much green in that grass, so it's mostly yellow and orange. Aqua up and down, not much. And now I get to blue, which we know the sky is going to be managed over there. Purple we can play with, not much. Take it back to 0. Magenta, up and down, not much. Done. Okay, now at this point, what I do is I hit Y on the keyboard again. Okay, and this looks very, very bright to me. Now I go back to my basic panel here and I start playing with these sliders. Guys, again, this is not a Lightroom course. This is me just giving you some ideas. I have videos to show you all of this, right? So I can look at this area here and say, shit, that white is a bit too bright. So I can go to my whites and just make it a bit darker, pull it back. Yes? I can then say the shadow areas, which would be these elephants here, let me lift them up. See how it lifts just the shadows? The shadow slider affects only the shadows. So see how the difference we get in there. So we can pull that up a little bit. The highlights will affect the highlight areas. I'm guessing the clouds, right? So here you start playing with all of those. The magic with skies specifically is if you come down to clarity and D Haze, these two pop contrast in cloudy areas. Watch this, clarity up. See what happens there? We're getting some depth in there. And watch what D Haze does to the sky. This is to taste. I'm overdoing this so you guys can see. But once you've gotten to the monochrome point and you can do that, you can now fade it in. So hold that thought. That was my raw file, and this is where I am now. Okay, and that's a couple of steps. That is literally just a few edits from the start, turn it to monochrome, and work it from there. Okay, Julie, I see your question here as well. Will you recommend anything? I'll get to all of those questions as we go. Hold those thoughts. All right, let me quickly just see any chats over here that I need to pay attention to. We guys are good. All right, we good. We're going to go do another one from scratch all the way through, same process. Here we go. Let me take you on to Lightroom over there and share. Okay, so that was our process going back to grid. Now just let's us go, this one here in particular. Okay, I chose this. This is a raw file, untouched. This is as it came out of the camera. Someone asked earlier on, is any image worth changing into monochrome? I would suggest if you're not sure, try. The easiest answer I can normally give you there is if color is a vital part of the image. For example, a lion with a wildebeest kill where there's blood on the lion's face. Red is important. Monochrome might not work, or it could. Eventually, with anything to do with Lightroom and processing, you will get better at this. You will kind of start getting a gut feel for it. Something like this, which is a very big abstract image, right? This is what you're looking at here is the top of a mountain in Svalbard. This is snow, layers of snow with light and some clouds. So I'm going to run that exact same process with you. I'm not even going to start from the top here. I just want to go straight into the black and white conversion like we mentioned. So first thing, remember, what do? You hit V on the keyboard. Watch what happens to these two. Turns it to black and white and the image goes monochrome. You now hit Y on the keyboard to give you the before and the after. So you know which areas you're going to be working. In this instance, there really is, when you go to black and white, only one of these sliders. You should know which one it is. You're going to go straight to blue because the entire image here is blue. So the blue slider, ready for this, will affect this thing quite dramatically. Right. So here you go to taste. Let's say we go there. Okay. I'm not even going to try any of the other colors because there is only really blue in this. I hit Y again to go back to single view. I go up to basic. And with something like this, which is very cloud and texture based, I would go straight to clarity and dehaze. Clarity gives me contrast around the edges. It hardens it up a bit. I don't know if you guys can see that. Watch what happens there. Yeah. And then dehaze is going to make it nice and dark and bring some details into the sky. So depending on how moody you want to go, in a couple of slides, we've gone from this to that, from that to that. So now, Lightroom is only a tool. All right, I've got a question. What is clarity and dehaze? I will get to that in 1 second. Okay. The moment you change an image from color to monochrome, you have changed reality. Okay, when you are photographing, and this is my approach to wildlife photography, is I want to show you, if you sat next to me on the game viewer or you were with me on foot in monopools, if you look at my images, I am showing you what you would have seen if you stood next to me. That is normal color images. Okay. The moment you change it to monochrome, you've changed reality. You can then decide as the artist, as the photographer, as the creative, what you want to do with it, how much you want to do. In that last image, I could have given you a way lighter image. I could have gone high key. I decided to go dark and moody. But you have to understand what the sliders do. And we'll run through those in a second now. Brian asks here, on that ice image, why didn't you adjust the black and white? I could have, and we can redo that now to see what the difference would be. But I just wanted to show you that you can, without doing that basic panel, you can literally dive straight in and just start doing the monochrome. So let's do that one more time. I'm going to do that same image. I'm going to reset it back, and I'm going to do what Brian says. We're going to do the black and white points like I normally do, and then we'll do the example. Let's check it out. So in we go straight there. Okay, so that was the example. I'm going to reset the image back down here, back to normal. So I'm going to keep you the before and after view so that on the left-hand side, you've got the original raw, and you can see as I develop what it looks like on the right-hand side. So my black and white point, and I'll talk a little bit more for now on this image about the details of what these sliders do. The black slider, every image theoretically has to have black in it somewhere. It has to have white in it somewhere. This is theory. So what this does, I hold Option on my keyboard and I click the slider. I take this down. Everything you see through now, the blue and the black, is pure black. I keep on lifting this up until I'm left with just a speck of black in the right in the corner here. I do the same with white. In this instance, I hold Option. I take the white slider all the way up and I drop it down until I'm left with just a speck of white right at the top. So up here is pure white, down there is pure black. Okay, different discussion. I can send you guys videos. Email me at the end. I will send you the videos on this. Okay, now I hit V on the keyboard. All right, it's already much darker. I go to black and white like we have been, and now I go to the blue channel. Okay, so it gives me a much more dramatic effect, Brian, right off the bat, which I also got by going back to basic and changing these afterwards. Yeah, so again, you can do these in any single order that you want. Remembering this for me, in the old days of Photoshop, way back, way back, right? You would have to do step 1, step 2, step 3, because it was destructive. Every part of the process basically destroyed the previous one and you couldn't go back. In Lightroom, you can do these things in any order possible. You still get the same result at the end. Okay, so Brian, good question. Very, very good question. Let's dig deeper. Keep the question coming, guys. I see the question on clarity and D Haze. I can see blurry underexposed. I've got all your questions. I will get to those. Let's go back into another example here and see what we can do with this guy. All right, now most of you, if you've been following for a while, you'll know who this is. This is Scar from the Masai Mara. Rumors recently, for those of you that are following him along, rumors recently said that he died, but he was still seen a couple of weeks ago in the Mara, nice and strong doing his thing. So in this one, Brian, I'm going to do what you said. I'm going to do my black and white points first. Guys, I do this on every single image always. Email me for those videos and I can send them on to you. hold there. So because there's little pieces of specks of color pointing through already, so watch this area here in his nose, it means there's already pure black. I go up to whites, same thing, there's no white. So I whack this all the way up and I bring it down until I'm laced with a speck. It'll probably be in his beard. So you see that little bit of blue in the middle? That is now pure white. All right, so I've balanced black and white in the image as far as tonal values go. Now I give V, gives me before and after. Y gives me the original and the black and white. I then come down, I click black and white down here. And now I work these sliders. Which slider would you guys go to straight to start working this? What would the first answer be? Where would you go first of all? Exactly, yellow would be the go-to. Okay, Nick, I'll get to your virtual copy now. Yellow would be the go-to because it's mostly yellow and orange, right? Now, if you're unsure, Claire, great answer. Let's check your yellow slider. So I go to yellow and I move that side to side. Nice. So there you can play with up to taste. Let's try orange because it's very close. Okay, same thing. This little trick here is golden. And on the next image, you guys will see this. Do you see this little circle over here? If I click on this, watch what happens. My cursor turns into that. Now I want you to notice what happens to these sliders as I move my cursor over. Can you see how different colors get highlighted as I move over? That's pretty cool because I can now say, right, I want this area, which the computer says is blue. I can click and I just drag up and down on that. And it moves. You see multiple channels at the same time. So you can go and I can say, right, I want this part, click and drag, and it does multiple channels at the same time. The next image will make more sense. Okay, I'm going to zero all of these for you. And then we're going to go from there. So I'm not going to use this thing right now, so I'll put it back. I'm going to go from the top. Let's just see red. Little bit in the main, not too much. Orange, we know is going to make some effect over there. Yellow, up and down. I'm going to pull that down a bit. Green, there's no green, so there's almost no effect on that. Blue will always affect some of your dark areas. So you'll see some of the dark areas coming in there. Not much purple, a little bit in the hair, apparently. There you go, Scar. And there. Okay, so if I now go back to Y, that would be a straight up conversion. We're not going to stop there. I am going to give you guys a little bit of special adjustments, brushes in a little bit. But for now, if I come to basic and I work these again. Now, a question earlier on clarity and D Haze. Now, what clarity does is clarity looks for contrast. So if I zoom in here, clarity will look for edges. For example, the edge here where you get the white area meeting the black area, that line, right? Clarity adds contrast. So it makes the darks darker and the lights lighter around a single line. D Haze does that in skies. For example, when Adobe released this, they said D Haze does this around smoky, misty, water type areas. So D Haze will make this darker, but it's not going to make a huge difference to what we want. Clarity, however, because there's a lot of edges, watch what happens if I overdo this and underdo, right? So if you increase clarity, it makes it almost look sharper. If you decrease clarity dramatically, right, it almost looks like you have Vaseline on your screen, which is not great. Now, this one is great for removing wrinkles if you want to try and do that. But for the purposes of this one, I would push that up a little bit. So just a quick monochrome conversion from there to there. Okay, so where we are over here, let me quickly see, just follow up on there. Nick, your question on what is the purpose of virtual copies? I don't normally do those for black and white. I'm just wanting to show you, and I'm going to do it on the next two as well. The one virtual copy is for me to see what it looks like, just general. The other, the normal copy is for me to process normally. If you are not sure, and this is where it becomes handy for you guys, if you're not sure whether you should do an image in monochrome or in color, create a virtual copy, command apostrophe, process the one in black and white, process the one in color, put them next to each other, easy way to see, and you can see which one looks best. Okay, let's dive right back into here. This next image I have for you is, let me go back to my grid. This one over here. All right. Now, this one is an already processed image. I'll give you a before and after. That was the raw file. This is the process file. Gotcha. Raw file on the left, process file on the right. Now, Carol, you asked earlier on, should you process it first in color? I normally do. I normally process it in color as far as I can, like this, because then I think, okay, this could work. So Nick, let me answer you. At this point, let's create a virtual copy of this. When you create a virtual copy, it takes the exact image and duplicates it with all the adjustments. Watch what happens. I'm on there. I go Command apostrophe. Okay. I now have two of the exact same images here. Right. If I look at my virtual copy, you can see it's got all the adjustments. And if I look at my original image, it has all the original adjustments. Okay. So for the purposes of this, let us take the first one, the original version, into develop and just hit V. Done, right? So that's basically just a desaturated version of my original. Now, let's go to the next one, which is my virtual copy. And this one I'm going to process like we've been discussing. Okay, guys, I see your questions popping up. I will get to them in a second. I'm going to hit Y on the keyboard. I'm going to hit V, right? And then I'm going to come down to my black and white panel. And now I'm going to work these things. Let me quickly open the chat here. Can you guys maybe tell me which sliders you would start with on this particular image? Because now we've got lots. There's blues, there's oranges, there's yellows, there's greens. Okay, there's a lot of stuff happening here. While you think about it, you guys can pop. Okay, green, Grace, yes, absolutely. I like the green. Keep it coming. Keep the green. Okay, I'll keep the green. Let me start on the green. All right. Would start with yellow, green, and orange. Green. All right, I'm going to follow what you guys say. So the green slider, I'm going to move up and down. Remember, this image on the left literally just shows me where I'm working. Here you see the result. Green slider and go. All the way down. All the way up. Okay. Not as dramatic as we might have thought. Maybe there's some aqua in there. Yeah? So then orange. Okay, so I'm going to work my green to there. Let me go to orange then. Hello. Watch what happens here. Can you guys see the gold that you can produce by doing this, by working the individual color channel? I quite like that. Yes? Right. Or use the icon and identify the colors. We're going to do that now. All right. So let's try the yellow channel here. Okay, it's a little bit of everything. What I do like on the yellow channel, and this is the cool thing by swinging it side to side, watch what happens here at the top of these branches and at the base when I slide this yellow side to side. Pops nicely, yeah? Let's go down. Let's just try red. Let's see what happens with red. See, there's a little bit of red in this background here. We don't see it, but it's there. Let's come down to aqua. Those shadows, watch on the left of the frame, this area here. When I move this side to side, yeah? Blue, what happens? That background. Watch how you can bring that background texture in with the blues. You guys look at this. Well, we all look at this. You don't think it's blue. We see orange and green and all those kind of things, yeah? So I like that so far. Let's try purple and magenta, a little bit of that in the background. For the purposes of now, I'm going to come back and redo this in a second. Let's go back to our grid. So that and that next to each other. The one on the left is just the straight up V. That is just desaturating it. On the right is the one where we looked at the color channels. This one pops more. There's more detail in the background. The elephant jumps out more. We're flying through this and we haven't even used special adjustments, and already it's a better version. So let's go back and do this again. So I'm going to take our version that we worked on together, and I'm going to say reset that. So let's reset all of these back to normal like that. All right. That's my straight up V. That is just as it is. Okay. I'm going to hit Y for before and after. And now I'm going to use this tool. Remember, this then selects the color channels for us. Click on that, and then I take it over the image. So I'm going to start, I would normally start from the biggest area down to the smallest, right? So I would probably start with this big chunk of area here. Watch how the color channel changes as I move my cursor over. So I'll choose like what I think is a green area, like here somewhere, move that, and I move it up and down. Oh, I like that, a bit of white coming through there. That's cool. Move it maybe up to this dark area, move that up and down. So you see, it doesn't isolate, it works the whole image. I like that. I'm quite liking this is a darker image. I'm going to go here, click, move up and down. We like the dark. On my elephant, make that brighter. Ooh, hello. I think I like that, right? So if I go back to grid now, and I put these next to each other, this one and that one, right? Watch how this one on the left is more powerful. Here, we've now started working, and we haven't even done special adjustments. I'm going to do a little bit of that as soon as we're done with all of these, right? So right now, let me quickly stop sharing the screen here. I'm going to just quickly go through these Q&As. What do you think makes a monochrome so beautiful? We'll get to that. Do you know or have you thoughts as to why people are attracted to black and white images? We'll get to that as well. What's the difference between a virtual copy and duplicating the image? We'll get to that. Hey, G, does pushing the clarity slider too much induce noise? Yes, I'm going to get to all of those. Let's process one more together. This is one of my favorite all-time images. It means a lot to me. Let's process this one, and I'm going to come to your questions and answer from there. I'm also seeing all of your messages on the chat. Use the icon. Perfect. Done. All right. Now, let's go into this one. G takes me to grid. This is probably one of my most favorite polar bear sightings ever, like ever. I think I've actually done vlogs and stuff on this. It has been amazing. And it was the very first image when I returned. This is 2 years ago in Svalbard. I am very sad, however, right now, because I'm not going to Svalbard this year because of the coronavirus. But it's one of those things. Moving on, we'll talk about that. So I'm going to take this thing through an entire process for you, but I'm going to create a virtual copy again, do a normal monochrome, and then I'm going to do my full thing. So let's go to the grid on this. I hit Command apostrophe. There's the virtual copy. On this one, let's just hit V straight up. Okay. Pretty straightforward. V, desaturated, done. Now, let's go to the next one. I'm going to process this the entire way as I would any single image. So I'm going to go black point. There's black already in the nose. White point, nothing. All the way up. Back it up, back it up. See right at the bottom of the frame? There. Okay. In my mind, a little bit bright, so I would pull the highlights down just so that I can see detail in these areas. If I can't, I'll pull white down. So there we go. Okay, it's not a shit image to start with. I'm sure you guys will agree. I work my way up. Contrast, I normally add about 8 or so contrast. And at this point, once I've done all of these and contrast, only if I need to will I touch exposure. I don't need to. Town. Clarity, we know, adds contrast around the edges of an image, and it's normally quite favoring the dark areas. Let's test it. Swing it up, swing it down. Okay, we don't want to do that. That is horrible, right? A little bit can help. Texture does the same thing, but it's more subtle and it focuses on the bright areas of the image. So I'll lift that. I don't know if you guys can, let me just zoom in on this polar bear a little bit. Watch what happens when I take the texture slider up here. Can you see how it becomes almost more furry, right? So it makes it look sharper because it adds contrast to the bright areas of the frame. Okay, a little bit fine. There. D Haze. Now, texture, clarity, and D Haze all have to do with contrast. And if I take D Haze up, I'm expecting the sky to bounce and just go ridiculous because D Haze tries to bring contrast into smooth areas, i.e. fog, mist, clouds. Ready, go. Okay, pretty insane, yeah? So far I've done that. This is the original raw, and on the right is the color version of the image. At this point, I want to take it to monochrome. What is the shortcut? V. Done. Now I go to my color channels and I'll say, right, what can I do with this thing? Blue, there's a lot of blue in this, so I'm going to start with blue. Let's see. See what that does. So I test it up and down. I'm liking the moody stuff in this. This mood is great down there. Maybe a bit of aqua as well, not too much. Now, people think a polar bear is white. A polar bear is not white. A polar bear is actually yellow. The fur is hollow and reflects light. So a lot of yellow. I go to yellow. You can see here. See, there's a bit of yellow in this bear. So I take yellow and I play with that. Okay. Remember, guys, this is not a course. I'm trying to give you ideas that you can go and play with. I like that somewhere there. Let's try orange as well, because there's a bit of that in him. Actually, it was a her. Sorry, this was a her. Okay, I like that. Let's go back to grid. So if I put these two next to each other, the left-hand version is just a straight desaturation. The one on the right is our version so far, but I'm not done with this yet. Because now on this image, before I see your questions, guys, in your chats, I'll get to that in a second. I want to make this more. So I've done all of this already. Yeah. Now I'm going to go into the special adjustment brush, just to give you a little bit of a taster. I am thinking of doing a webinar just on special adjustment brushes, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to reset all of these. I'm now going to select a brush and I'm going to work the sky. What do I want to do with the sky? I want to, for example, D Haze a little bit more. Remember, that makes it darker and more moody. Maybe a bit of clarity. And maybe let's make it a bit darker just for mood. Right. I'm going to open up my brush. Now, guys, this is vital. What I'm going to tell you now. Flow and density. If you do not understand what these two brushes do, you need to send me an email because you're missing magic. I'm not going to go deep into it now. I have got a YouTube video on this. Email me after this. Right. I'm now going to say, right, I'm going to brush this image and I'm going to fade the adjustments in. Okay. The reason I do not like to do this overlay with the color is I can see where I'm painting, but I can't see what I'm doing. So I prefer to do it without. Okay. If I turn my brush off and on, can you see what I'm doing? I'm forcing the viewer's gaze more towards the animal. Let me do another brush for you, a new one. And this time, let's work this snowy part at the bottom here. So I'm going to make that a bit darker. I want to add some clarity. So I decide before the time what I want to do, and then I brush it in, and I can see the adjustments happen. At this stage, if I click on this dot over here, that's the sky. I can now, after the fact, decide what do I want to do with the sky. Obviously, I'm overcooking it so you guys can see. This one down here is for the snow in the front. I can decide now, after the fact, how much or how little I want to maneuver and adjust that section of the image. Guys, Lightroom is just a tool. You need to decide what you want to do with this. All of those are just suggestions. The idea is this, is once you've got an image into monochrome, by using Y, think of Y on the keyboard, one image to two, two image to one, right? Before and after. You see the color version, you see the monochrome version. You use those color channels under black and white panel, right? You do that. You can then decide how much more you want to process this thing. With the special adjustments, we'll get to your questions now. People's eyes are attracted to bright areas. So you want to push some of the image back by making it darker and pull some of it forward by making it lighter. It creates depth. So I could paint my polar bear with a special adjustment brush and pull it forward. I can paint the sky and push it back by making it dark. Guys, like I said, this is just to give you some ideas, but I can send you to a lot of videos on this. Okay, let's look at a couple of questions here. I'm going to backtrack. Charlotte asks, can any image look good and monochrome? No, some of them can't. You need, for example, you need something like strong texture, strong lines. If you have very high key images, the cool thing is with Lightroom, Charlotte, try it on every image. The moment you get to an image, hit V on your keyboard, look at it and think, there's something, or nah, that's crap, let's move on. But as you go more into this, and I've got blogs and stuff on this. Email me, guys, send me an email. I'll send this to you, right? not everything's going to work in monochrome. The one thing I said earlier on, if an image is based on color, if color is a defining factor, often it won't work, right? But try it. That V function is golden. Carol asks, is it important to process a shot before going to black and white? I normally do, because I will take a raw file, I'll process it all the way through, I'll look at it and think, not bad. And if I want to then create a monochrome, I'll just hit Command apostrophe and then go from there. So Carol, yes, I would normally process the whole thing. Julia asks, would you recommend editing the photo in color first in case it's blurry or underexposed whatsoever, or just go straight to black and white? Like I said, Julia, and Carol's question as well, I would do the whole process first, process the whole thing, right? And then decide to go monochrome. Sometimes though, you'll just know. Sometimes you'll just know. The moment you click that button, boom, you'll know that's going to be a black and white. But test it. Lightroom's amazing for testing because it's non-destructive, so keep trying. Okay, the clarity in D Haze we did answer. Mandeep, hey G, does pushing the clarity slider too much induce noise in the image? Mandeep, yes, it's possible. If I take you back just very quickly to this image to answer that question, let me take you to an image like this, right? If I zoom in on that and I take that to develop, because clarity at a high end, it tries to bring in dark and light. You could find areas, just to answer you, that it does. Look at the noise and the stuff that it introduces here, the grain specifically. Because remember this, Mandeep, this might be a bit more technical, but we can dig into this, is clarity is applied to edges in an image, right? Where black and white or blue and red comes together. Noise, digital noise, Lightroom sees that as edges, very fine edges, but if you push clarity too far, Lightroom might try and apply clarity to noise if it was there already. Mandeep, if that doesn't make sense, send me a message or DM me and we can go deeper. But yes, it can. So don't go too harsh. Can induce noise. Amy asks, what's the difference between a virtual copy and duplicating the image? Amy, it's pretty much the same thing. If you duplicate the image, so you have a directory where your raw files live, right? If you duplicate the image, if this was 20 megabytes, you now have another image of 20 megabytes. So there's two files, you're taking up more space and you have to manage them separately, okay? If you just create a virtual copy, what Lightroom does, it keeps one raw file, but it creates two different versions of it. So it might be a 20 megabyte file. One version is just given as black and white, other one's monochrome. So in Lightroom, a virtual copy means one raw file, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 different versions of it. Make sense? If you use Lightroom, virtual copies is golden because you can have one image with different versions. Yeah? Ooh, I remembered one more thing I've got to show you when we're done. So I prefer virtual copies because duplicating images gets confusing eventually on your raw file structure, and it's just easier to manage, right? We quickly see just here. Okay, that's there. Amy's question. Simon, do you know or have thoughts as to why people are attracted to black and white images? I think, Simon, it's a very interesting discussion, and it probably goes outside of the realm of photography, but there is something about monochrome images, and especially what I'm going to show you now, last little trick when I'm done with these questions, a sepia image, like that golden color, right? Or just a black and white image. It takes us back and it makes us think of old times. It makes it feel vintage. And a lot of the time, a monochrome image, like I said, has changed reality already. It's not real anymore. And there's a certain mystery to it, which is great. But I think it's that thing of, it makes us, and this is going to sound strange, it makes us remember times we weren't even at. It makes it look mysterious, and what would the color be? So I think there's that mystery to it, but also when I show you sepia now as a final little trick before we're done, it's an interesting discussion. I think I actually have a podcast on that, but yeah. Charlotte asks, what do you think makes a monochrome image so beautiful? I think it's exactly what Simon asked, is there's that certain sense of mystery to it. There's a certain mystery which makes it work. Marie asks, what what good the exposure slider do? Exposure slider would take the whole thing brighter or the whole thing darker. I wouldn't normally have to touch it. Maybe I'll do a normal workflow webinar for you guys one day. But Marie, it's a good question. Straight up and down, yeah? Anonymous asks a very strange question. We're not even going there. Why don't you run through the flow and density in the next webinar? I will do that. It's a serious question. I will do that. We'll do a special adjustment brush webinar. In this week, I will schedule it, share it tomorrow. Linda asked, so what makes you decide to do your black and white in Lightroom as opposed to going into Nick? Linda, you jumped ahead because I've done Nick with you before. I'm doing a webinar on Nick on Friday, is it Thursday evening. So then I'm going to pull all of this together. And then the next week, I'm going to do one where we pull all of it together. I will always try and do my monochrome in Lightroom first. Nick filters, as you know, Linda, way more powerful, ridiculously more powerful, right? So Nick is my go-to, but I will always start in Lightroom. So, but I will answer that for you in Thursday's webinar as well. Jock asks, do you use contrast? If so, when? Normal processing, yes, Jock. I will answer that in one of the upcoming webinars. Elaine, how do I reduce noise from a higher ISO? Again, let me do a sharpening and noise webinar. I'm going to make notes of these, guys. I will load all of these webinars up for you, even if they're short. We'll go very specific. We'll go very, very specific. Now, I'm going to quickly run through one last trick, and then I'm going to come back and answer the last chats and Q&As for you. We're already over time. I'm happy as long as you guys are, right? This little thing for me is a golden thing. It's called split toning. Okay, so let's say, for example, we are happy with this as a monochrome. This is how you create a sepia inside of Lightroom. Once you've done all your black and white, like we've discussed, you click on split toning. Now, you get highlights and shadows. Highlights means the bright areas of the image. Shadows means the dark areas. So this tree and the top here would be shadows. The background will be highlights. You decide for yourself how heavy you want to go. Basically, what you do is you choose on here, hue, either on the highlights or the shadows, not necessarily both. Dial this up to around about 35 to 45. Okay, so I'm going to go 40, middle of the road, right? That puts me like an orange range. Now, I take the saturation up. I'm going to go slowly so you can see what happens. So now it's injecting an orange into, I'm going to overdo it, that would happen. But this here gives me like that sepia tone. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Reset. I'm going to do it on the shadows this time. So this, what I do here, I choose a color and that would get applied only to those areas. So if I go hue, let's say 45 this time, which is your sepia tone is between 35 and 45 on the hue slider, right? And then I dial the saturation up and suddenly I have an image that looks all vintage. And this is the kind of stuff, it makes me think like, oh, it's Africa of old, or whatever the case might be, which is amazing. Okay, so that would be how you create a sepia tone. Watch if I turn it off. That's without, that's with. That's without, that's with. Okay, so that's the one version. That is how you create a sepia tone. Now, and this little trick I'm going to give you here, this is something, if you start going to look at the images of a lot of the monochrome stuff that you like out there, what people share, try this, guys. Monochrome, see, sepia is one thing. That's cool. Sepia is one thing, and straight up hardcore black and white is another. Watch this little trick. Linda, some of you that have traveled with me will know this one. So if I take my sepia image, I'm going to take it back to 0. Right. So when you're doing sepia, you select on the slider, either the highlights or the shadows, 35 to 45. What I'm going to show you now is how to soften up very subtly a monochrome image. There's more shadows in this image than highlights, so I'm going to choose shadows. I click on this block here, right? And I choose a blue, any blue, like somewhere there. Now, don't do this. This is quite horrible, I think, but I've chosen my color, and now I drop my saturation to 0. So what I've done, that blue color, when I slide the saturation slider up, will be applied to the dark areas of the image. Ready? I'm going to go super slow. And I'm going to stop right about 8 to 10. Now, you can probably not see this. I'm going to turn it, that's off, that's on. That's off, pure monochrome, that's on. Let me push it up a bit so you can see. It injects blue. Right. Now, if you are looking for a very nice way to soften up your monochromes, because often a monochrome can be really harsh. It's like, God, black and white. It's too much, right? Do that. Inject just that little bit of blue into the image. And normally, and when you watch this again on my Instagram TV later on, between 8 and 10 works beautifully. It softens it up and it just makes it look awesome. It really does. Elaine, I'll answer that for you. Charlotte Nicholson asks, where is the line between making the image better by editing it and creating something fake? Surely you would want to honor the experience. Wow, I could talk for hours on that one. You need to understand what you want to do with it, right? If it's for a print, I will process it for a print. If it's for Instagram, I will process it for Instagram. The end goal will determine how heavy you go. To honor the experience, I actually like that. I dig that. Honoring the experience of what you had out in the field. I would do two. I would do one, and this is just me. I would do the monochrome version, which honors the, the color version, which honors the experience. This is what I saw. Monochrome is up to you, 100%. The last thing I'm going to leave you guys with on monochrome is all too often, people are too subtle with their monochrome. It's like slowly, that's enough and it's done, right? Be harder with your monochrome. Be more intentional. Intent matters. With this, intent matters, right? So on your monochromes, go harder. Try some of those tricks. If you have any questions, I'm going to make a list right now of some of the webinars, and I'm going to run more of those for you, small ones, just noise and sharpening, right? I will run one on just on basic workflow, and I'll load all of those during the course of tomorrow. So please follow my Instagram, and we can then, and we can do those. Some of them will be basic. I'm going to run one just on special adjustments, right? Just special adjustments. And then when we put all of this over, so I'm just looking at some of the chats. Louis, thank you. I'm seeing all the chats. I will, Louis Kruger, appreciate it. A lot to think about and do for the next 3 weeks. One more thing, do this quickly. I'm going to share my screen with you one more time. If you do not have my Instagram or email or whatever the case is, screen grab or take a picture with your phone. That's where you can, not that. There you can get hold of me. When you WhatsApp me, you'll get an auto reply. I will not get back to you immediately, but I will. Easiest way, send me an email or hit me up on Instagram, social media, TikTok, Snapchat, wherever. My username is the same. Screen grab that. You got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's done and gone. Okay. So I will then dig into short webinars, half an hour, 45 minutes. I'll do an hour. I've got time. So do you. Shit, we're in lockdown. We have lots of time. So I will do all of the webinars for you. Simon popped up with the last question here. Are you able to put all these webinars onto YouTube as well? I will do that, Simon. Yes, I will 100% do that. I'm pulling every single webinar we do off. I'm going to make a list now. I will load these new ones onto my Instagram TV. Onto the Wild Eye Instagram tomorrow. And then I will see you guys in the next webinar. The next one is Photoshop for wildlife photography. Even if you haven't used Photoshop, right? I'm going to keep it very simple just to kind of give you some ideas, new things to play with, right? Yes. So I think that's it for now. I actually need to shave at some stage, my lockdown look, but yeah, I'm going to shave soon. And well online if you want those. Details to follow Monday next week on the Wild Eye feed, but that is it from me for now. Right, guys, as always, thank you much for joining. Thank you for lending me your ears. I hope you can take something from there And I will see you guys in the next time. Wherever in the world you are, good evening, good morning, and good night. I will chat to you next time. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. Cheers, guys. Good night.